Welcome. Come on and join us tonight. Welcome to Conversations with Celena. I am Celena if this is your first time. So I just want to welcome you to the Conversations with Celena community. Tonight I have a very special guest. He knows that he is near and dear to my heart. So it just makes me even more excited. I know y'all say, Sunshine, you always excited, but there is just sometimes you extra elated. And so tonight I am so excited and I cannot wait to introduce him. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you just a moment to go ahead and share this video, and we'll be right back. It should not have taken you long. All right. So we would just want to say thank you to our sponsors, the people that believe in Conversations with Celena, the ones who visit me, share me, whatever it is that you do to support Conversations. I do appreciate it. So I want to give you a shout out. Sponsors, monetary, or just here to say we love you, we support you, and we believe in what you do, because I've heard those words, and those are the words that help keep me here. Because sometimes it gets hard. It gets hard to invest in you. And so that is what Tom is here tonight to talk about: investing in you, investing in your future, making sure that you are safe and have the tools that you need. So I'm going to read what he wrote. That way I don't have to try to reword it. So I want to introduce to you tonight Mr. Tom Piper Jr. His bio says, I am a father of 2 wonderful adult children. I know them, by the way, and a husband of 25 years. OMG is all I have to say. I am a native of Ocala, Florida, and proudly served in the United States Marine Corps. After my 4-year enlistment, I returned to Florida, where I earned my bachelor's degree in business from the University of Florida. Go Gators. And his wife is downstairs going, go LSU.
He is, yeah. That's exactly right.
Love that they have in that household. I started my career in human resources management as the site lead in manufacturing facilities for Fortune 500 companies, which brought us great locations like New Orleans, Kansas City, Daytona Beach, Jacksonville, Huntsville, and the DFW area. And now they live in Raleigh, North Carolina. All right, I'm almost done, but it's an amazing bio. My 20-year career in HR management has provided me with a strong foundation of business experience that has transferred well into financial advising and helping clients to work toward achieving their financial goals. I established a strong relationship of trust with my clients in order to understand their financial goals and their comfort with risk, and I partner with them to work toward achieving their dreams. Doing this helps them develop the confidence to enjoy life today, knowing that they will be financially ready for tomorrow, ready for their future. So it is his pleasure to be here tonight. I'm speaking on his behalf. It is his pleasure to be here tonight as a guest on Conversations with Celena to talk to us about financial planning for the future. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Celena. Thank you. It's my honor to. It's not only my pleasure, but it's my honor.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So I know I read your bio, and we do know a little bit of background. But what transitioned you from the HR houses, which how I met you, over into the financial planning? What prompted you to make that change?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my whole career, even before I started HR, I always flirted with the idea of being a financial advisor. And it was always around me and my family. So my father was an investor, and it was not so much working for a firm, but more just an individual investor. My grandfather was an individual investor. I have a brother-in-law that's a financial advisor, so it's always been around me. And
Mm-hmm.
I was brought up with that way of thinking. So I got my degree in human resource management and pursued that, but it was always in my mind to become a financial advisor. So it was always there. And I don't know. I think that working with great people and great companies and seeing how they worked hard and saved and tried to prepare, but I didn't feel like they were getting the support that they needed. And so I saw it firsthand. So to me, it was kind of a call to really, how can I help people? And I've always had a heart for helping people and trying to help people achieve their goals. So anyway, so after 20 years of being in HR, I figured it was time to pursue a second career. And so decided to pursue a career within Edward Jones as a financial advisor. So it opened the door for me to come this direction.
Okay. Well, I know that being in HR, like you said, you've witnessed people. Hold on a
Mhm.
second. They get started and they get started at a young age working in their,
Mhm.
in their career, whatever it may be.
Right.
And so during the time when you're introducing them to everyone, you're also introducing them to the idea of
Mhm.
investing in their 401k. And a
Right.
lot of people think, well, I'm not worried about that because
Mhm.
at that age, you think you got your whole life ahead of you, which you do, but they
Right.
don't realize how quickly it goes by.
Oh yeah.
And then you get to an older age wishing that you'd have put in the max, because if you
Yeah.
put it in and
Mhm.
you don't see it, it's almost out of sight, out of mind. And you'd be surprised at over time how fast that grows.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. I've never had a client say, "I wish I would have waited longer to do this."
Right?
Yeah, they never say it. So the fact remains is that people who started early are glad that they started early because their later in life becomes so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they have their destination, within view, and they know what they have to do to get there. Again, that's that peace of mind today, knowing you're going to be prepared for the future. For people who have not started that process, in HR, I always used to ask them the question, and it was always kind of a rhetorical question, but it was, do you like what you do? And of course, when the HR guy asks, do you like what you do? You feel compelled to say yes. But my response
Mm-hmm.
is good. I hope so, because you're going to be doing it a really long time if you don't start preparing for retirement. So, again, it's the earlier you start, the better prepared you'll be later on, and it just makes your life that much easier. So I always try to encourage people early on: do not wait. Don't think of it about it as a tomorrow activity. Think about it as a today activity. So really encourage them to engage. And look, I mean, I have clients that I help that started later in life, and the old it's the old Japanese proverb: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time today, right?
Right, right.
So got to
Because
start
we
somewhere.
preach it's never too late to get started.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I know that let me see, what did I put in the chat? Tonight we're going to be talking about, I know investing, it's
Mhm.
never too late. So, don't compare yourself to anyone else and beat yourself up because you didn't do,
Yep.
because that's what we're here to do tonight, is to tell you, based on where you are,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm saying we're saying that tonight. Tom is just going to give us some highlights. So if you need
Right.
more information, contact him. Let me start with that.
Yeah.
But based on where you are, different things that you can do that would help you with your financial planning for the future, for retirement. But
Mhm.
nobody is telling you not to live today. See,
Right.
a lot of people wait and put everything off until they retire. Well, I'm going to travel when I retire. Well, I'm going to do this
Right.
when I retire. And
Mhm.
so, if you plan it correctly, you can do some of those things now
Mhm.
along the way
Yeah.
if you plan properly, and then you still will be able to retire and travel. Does that not sound like a plan? So, I'm going to tell y'all what I did,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to give it back to Tom.
Sure.
So, what I did was I had 401k, and some companies allow you to roll it over. They allow you to take it out, take a loan, whatever. And I've done all of all of it under the sun, because I'm a single mom. So you do what you have to do in order to make it through today.
Mhm.
And I reached out to Tom, and we had a conversation, but then he doesn't know this yet. I had to go get some of it.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, because I no longer work for that company, there's no taking out a loan option. So I had to actually withdraw it. And
Mhm.
so, had I planned better, I would have had different options. And so, you don't want to make the same mistake that I made. You want to have some great advice, and then you want to follow that advice,
Mhm.
because we need to stay in our lane.
Yeah.
We let Tom do the investing and help
Mhm.
us with the investing, because this is what he's great at.
Yeah.
I should have sought the counsel before I just panicked and said,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, I need to get this, because now I'm going to have to recover." Is it possible? Yes.
Yeah.
Am I going to get help? Most definitely. So, there you go. I'm the first client on the line because I need some help now, because I'm now over with the government, which is
Mhm.
TSP. It's called TSP instead of 401k. But
Mhm.
nevertheless, I still need guidance on what to do, because at my age, I don't know if I should be risky or
Yeah.
not risky, because I only have a few more years, hopefully, to work.
Mhm.
My children are part of my retirement plan, so we've already established that. I'm just putting that out there. They better get a job and put me on the bills. This is for mama every month.
Yeah. Well, Selena, you bring up a good point, and it's really important to emphasize is it's never too late to start, right? And I do believe in the biblical principle on this, and that is we all have our own race to run. So you can't compare yourself to somebody else in this process, right? You just
That's
can't.
right.
So, and that's one of the great things. I really try to, I don't know, be counselor on many levels, but one of that, there's very much a psychological component on this, because people always look back and think about what they did wrong, and that's fine. We're going to make mistakes. If you have a pulse, you will make mistakes. But what did you learn from those mistakes, and how do you make those changes moving forward so we don't make the same mistakes again? So,
Mhm.
I would say is that for anybody that has a goal, we're very much goals focused with what we do. And so, whether your goal is sending someone to college, maybe you have little kids at home and you're trying to think, how am I going to afford their college? And in the back of your mind, it's like, if all else fails, come on, scholarship, right? Student loans, whatever. But at the same time, there's people that are like, hey, how do I start saving for that? Right.
Mhm.
And there's other people that are like, hey, my kids are out of the house and I need to start saving for retirement. And college was expensive and it was a heavy load to bear. How do I start kind of re-engaging my resources to really start to achieve my goals? So, but we work with everyone with where they are in that moment, and so it really is about developing a strategy. And a lot of that has to do with is that look at your length of time. Your time horizon is a big part to do with this. If you're a year away from retirement, if you've never started to save, well, I mean, it's going to be unrealistic to think that you're going to be able to convert money in a year and it's going to have a lasting retirement for you. So that's a big part of it. So horizon, comfort level with risk. If you think you're going to turn a couple $1,000s into a retirement plan, then your strategy might involve a trip to Gulfport, at the casinos. I don't endorse that, but it might be the more realistic way to turn a little bit of money into a lot in a short period of time, and that's not even realistic. So anyway, but it's definitely understanding your goals and being specific with those goals, even though they may be so far out there and it's really hard to anticipate, hey, how much money am I going to need in retirement? Well, you try to anticipate as best as you can, knowing that if you have regular reviews of those, then as you get closer in time, they start to become more crisp and more in focus, and then you can start to kind of dial it in. So again, developing a strategy. Another part has a lot to do with understanding risk. A lot of this really comes back to is don't take any more risk than you have to. If you have enough timeline and you can approach your goal in a less risky way and still achieve your goal, then don't take any more risk than you have to. Sometimes, and I've had clients where we've had to discuss this, they find themselves being slightly compromised, saying, if I don't take a little more risk now, I'm never going to reach my goal. So it's a compromise that they have to make knowing that what's worse, taking a little bit more risk or not achieving your goal. So, but we have a very deep discussion with our clients about risk to make sure that they understand. Um, the other part of it is diversification, and diversification goes much deeper than a lot of people say. Well, gosh, I'm so much into bonds, and I'm so much into equities, and that's diversification on a really high level. But it just goes so much deeper than that. And just on a side note, I'll even point to this. But anybody that watches the market, we had a market pull back yesterday, and if you take a look at the indexes, you'll see that the Dow pulled back about, I guess it was about 3%. The S&P was around 4, and the Nasdaq was around 5, 5.5. So those indexes and the investments within those, some of those investments, it could be like a Johnson and Johnson. It may not even be as affected by it as maybe as something like an Nvidia. So just to say that you're in stocks or investments that are tied to the market, that's a very generic statement. That's like saying I drive a car. I mean, of course you do. Well, what do you drive? A Ferrari or do you drive an Oldsmobile? I mean, two very different vehicles. So again, the point of diversification, we get so much deeper into this, and I say we. That's my job, and I try to understand the client's comfort level with risk. You tell me that you're afraid of risk, but you want to have good, consistent growth, then I lean you to a more diverse portfolio that's not going to have you bounced around in the market as much as other investments. And I have some clients that just aren't afraid of nothing, and they go, "Hey, let's go," and we have a more aggressive strategy. So I work with clients across the board on all those. But again, it's my job to understand that, so that I'm not subjecting a client or anybody to any more risk than they have to be.
Heart attack.
What's that?
You're not putting them at risk of a heart attack.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because that risk taker,
Oh,
oh my goodness.
when you see the market pull back, that's when you really test someone's nerves. If a client says they're not afraid of anything, if they're not calling by the end of the day yesterday, then they got nerves of steel. But it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen.
Always.
Yeah, the market. Yeah, it always has. The market has always recovered. There's never been a time that it hasn't. So that's where, when we have days like this, I don't see them as a day to be afraid. I see them as an opportunity. So Warren Buffett has this expression, and I'm not big on quoting Warren Buffett, but it's when people get greedy, I get scared. And when people get scared, I get greedy. And I absolutely love it because it is a good insight to the human psyche and what motivates people: fear and opportunity. And fear is usually a bigger driver than opportunity is. But you got to be able to master that, and you got to know it. If you know what to expect, you don't freak out. You don't feel like you have to jump out of your bedroom window just because the market had a bad day, right? It's just a day in the market. It will recover. Always has.
Always does.
So that's diversification. Along with diversification, I'll kind of tag along and stick with quality. If somebody's telling you about an investment that's too good to be true, probably is. So, I would say really we make sure that we work with investments that are high quality, investments that most people heard of, or if they haven't heard of it, by the time we get done explaining it to them, they're going to say, okay, totally get it. So, whether you're working with a financial advisor or doing it yourself, always pay attention to what would be considered a quality investment. And then let's see, for another one is investing for the long term. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people want to do here is time the market. And I'm going to tell you, you don't have to time the market once. You got to time it twice. So if you think about it, right? What do we all learn? The first thing about investing: buy low. And the second thing we learn is sell high, right? So that's the idea. But the problem is that how do you know when the market's going to have a pullback, right? You don't know. How do you know when it's going to do really well? You don't know. We can predict and we can try to anticipate, but if anybody's going to be able to guess the market correctly, then they would be extremely wealthy. And they don't even play the game that way themselves because they know better. So people who are successful in investing and achieving their goals are very methodical about it. They don't try to time the market. They're very consistent with their processes, very disciplined, and they don't deviate from that. Even when the market gets pulled back like it did yesterday, it's not a freak out moment. They know what they expected, and we do too. So let's see. The other thing I would say is back to, I made this comment earlier about having realistic expectations. And so again, if you're within a year or two of retirement and you've never started to save, it's kind of like the ship's left, you missed it. And so, again, the earlier we start, the better chance we have of achieving that goal. Now, I'll tell you a little bit of a trick. Some of you may have heard this, but it's called the rule of 72. Have you ever heard that, Celena?
What is it? 70 what?
The rule of 72. So
Hmm.
72, the number 72 is a factor, okay? And it helps you understand how your investment's going to perform. For example, let's say that let's say that you have an investment that's averaging 7.2% interest each year. Okay, so it's paying you 7.2% growth, or it's growing 7.2%. So that rule, okay, will tell you how long it takes for your money to double. Okay, so the rule of 72. So you put 10 grand into an investment and it's averaging 7.2% growth. So what do? You divide 77.2 into 72. It gives you 10. That 10 is how many years it will take for your money to double. So if you're averaging 7.2% interest, your money's going to double in 10 years. And you can reverse that and say, well, gosh, it took me 10 years for my money to double. What type of interest am I getting? 10 into 72, 7.2, right? So you can work it in both ways. But if you're looking at like a college savings fund for a kid, let's say you have a newborn, right? And you're thinking they're going to need money when they go to college when they're 18. And
Yes.
let's say when they're born, you can get everybody in the family, grandma and grandpa, to chip in a little bit, right? And start a college savings fund. Let's pretend that they're able to put together $10,000. Okay, you start a college savings fund that when they're born with $10,000. Well, if you're averaging, let's say, 10% interest on an investment each year, average, that means, again, using the rule of 72, in 7.2 years, that money is going to double. So in 7 years, 10,000 becomes 20,000. So by the time they're 7, they'll have 20,000. Again, if it sticks with that, by the time they reach 14, that 20,000 now becomes 40,000. Okay. And then remember, they're not going to need it all the day they turn 18. It's going to be needed at different times.
Mm-hmm.
So at 40,000 could be worth 60, 70, $80,000 potentially by the time they're at the point of college and they're actually pulling off that money. So if somebody says, hey, $10,000 is a lot of money, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to a college education, I don't look at the value of money in the moment as much as I do what's it worth in time. Realistic expectations. So $10,000, it's a lot of money, but in 18 years from now, that could be worth $60,000, $70,000. Is that meaningful to you? If somebody says it's not, well, write me a check, right?
I know, right?
Of
I'm gonna
course
be
it's
just
meaningful.
fine.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So again, keep that in mind, rule of 72, but it helps you set or manage your expectations
Mm-hmm.
and kind of have an idea of how your investments are going to perform. So let's see. Another one is something called rebalancing. So I talked a little bit earlier about diversification. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have a portfolio, and let's say of that portfolio, 35% leans toward bonds or fixed income, right? So if a third of that leans toward bonds and two-thirds leans toward equities, historically the market outpaces bonds. So what happens? Well, in a year from now, instead of it being a 65-35, it could be a 70-30 or even a 75-35. Why? Because equities grew faster than your bonds. So now what happens? Your portfolio is out of balance. It's kind of like when you cut your yard and then 3 days later you have one spot in the yard that grows faster than the other spot, right? And you go, well, why is, like I just cut it. Why is it doing that? Your portfolio is the same way. And the idea behind rebalancing goes back to the principle of buy low, sell high. So what happens? So your equities are higher than they need to be. So those stock-like investments. So what do? We rebalancing and bring it back to 65-35. Well, when we do that in that moment, what that does is it takes the excess out of your equities and it moves it over to your bonds. It's almost like securing a gain. Okay. So when you move it over to your bonds, it kind of locks it in. And it guarantees that, hey, the market's not going to pull this back if there's a market pullback. Okay. So you're kind of selling high, right? And then when the market's really low, we rebalance also. And why do we do that? Well, because your equities are lower than they're supposed to be. And now you have too much money in your bonds. So you pull your safe money out of your bonds and move it over to your equities. So you're buying low. It forces you to live by the principle of buy low, sell high. Now, it's not typically that order. It could be you're selling high and then later you're buying low. Doesn't matter. But the importance of rebalancing is to make sure that you're not taking too much risk and not even realizing it. You're securing gains where you can, and you're putting market money in the market when the market gives the opportunity to do it. So, is that anything you ever heard of before, Celena? Rebalancing?
I'm probably, but just not as
Mhm.
structured as you're sharing it with us,
Yeah,
because I really just put mine over there and y'all take care of it
yeah,
because it's kind of foreign to me. That's
mhm,
why I was saying, you leave people to what they're good at. Do you need the information? Most definitely. That's why you're here with us
yeah.
tonight because like I just recently did Litecoin or something in the
Mm.
what is it?
Crypto, cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, oh my God, you need to get a
yeah,
grip, get some help because it's unfamiliar territory. And
mhm,
so this right here has been around for years. It's
yeah.
tried and true. Um, but I don't know about that crypto.
Yeah, I mean, on a side note, I think that crypto will have a place in our economy. It already does, but I think it's probably more viewed as speculative investing. People are buying based and trying to capitalize on it based upon market fluctuations. But what causes it to fluctuate? The average person that invests in that probably couldn't tell you that, right? And so understanding it before you put money into it goes a long way. And let's face it, the things that move those aren't even completely understood either, because it's a
Mhm.
very new investment in the landscape of investing. So crypto will have a place in our economy for sure, but it's still kind of the wild west of investing when it comes to crypto right now. So it's got a
Yeah,
long
and I
way to
tried
go.
to jump on it too while it was new. I have some videos that I'm supposed to be watching. Um, But you know how you hear about like Netflix and Amazon, and you're like, I don't know, have a clue what y'all are talking about. But
Right?
had you invested just a little bit
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
even if it's unfamiliar, that's why we need advisors,
Mhm.
to say, okay, this one might be a good one. Give it a shot. That's
Yeah.
all you can do. And if you're not a risk taker, at least invest in a little bit in it.
Yeah.
Because in hindsight, we all can say, wish we woulda, coulda.
Sure.
Um, so
The little bit's a great philosophy, Celena. So, have you ever heard of something called dollar cost averaging? Does that mean anything to you?
dollar cost averaging. Most of this information is new to me
Yeah.
that you're
So,
sharing.
well, you do it. You just don't know that you do it. Okay. So, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, you don't even know it, but I'll tell you why. So, when you invest in your, it's what is it, TSP through work, right? So when you invest in that, you have a little bit taken out of your paycheck, each paycheck, right?
Mhm.
So, and you probably get paid like what, twice a month, I would imagine, right? First and the
Yeah,
15th sounds about right.
sounds all right.
Yeah. So you have a little bit of your paycheck that goes out and goes into your TSP. Well, what happens is that you don't know where the market is that day. You probably don't even pay attention. Nobody does, right? So, but
Most
what happens is that when you have that money go into the market, you're buying in at a moment. It's not like you're taking a pile of money and saying, I want to buy in at this moment. And that goes back to the conversation of timing the market. When's the best time? But when you do dollar cost averaging, what you're really doing is you're taking a little bit and investing it as you go, and the market's going to fluctuate. And as it does, you're not buying at one price point, you're buying at many price points. And by dollar cost averaging, what that does is it allows you to capture, I would say, the better of the market just because, like right now, everybody knows that I don't know, it depends who you talk to. Some people say we're not in a recession. All I know is whether it is or it isn't, it sure feels like one. But right now, dollar cost averaging, everybody investing in your 401ks right now, if you think what's the point, I will tell you, in your career, you want good downturns like this. Now, of course, there's probably a lot of people hearing this right now going, why would anybody want an economic downturn like this? And it kind of goes back to the principle. You and I have talked about this before, Celena, but does anybody want to pay full price, or do you want to buy something that's a lot less expensive?
I don't want to pay full price.
Yeah. Okay. So, you want, let's say you go to Target or Walmart, you want to buy a TV set, and they have two right there. They're pretty comparable to each other, but one of them's, let's say, 20% off. Which one would you buy?
20% off.
Okay, well, that's the market today. So when you're doing dollar cost average right now, the market's about 20% lower, give or take, depending upon the index. So you're putting your money into an investment that's 20% lower than it was when the market was at its highs back in, November, December last year. So you're getting more for your money right now. It just doesn't feel like it. And then when the
It
market
definitely
does,
does not feel like
no,
it.
no, it feels like you're throwing money into it and there's not a lot to show for it, but you're buying more shares. And when the market comes back, those shares start to snowball. So economic downturns like this kind of goes again to the principle of is don't be afraid of it. See it for what it is, right? A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people run in fear. I say lean into a down market. Times like this, you have to say, hey, if I put maybe even 1% more into my 401k or my TSP or whatever it is, what's that going to look like when the market does come back? So again, it's just taking opportunities where opportunities exist and making the most of it. Um, so anyway, just really trying to see a down market as more of an opportunity than something to be afraid of. Um, so I know we talked a little bit about, I guess, the importance of rebalancing. Celena, you talked about this at the very beginning of your podcast, but it's preparing for the unexpected, right? And it's being prepared for the unexpected. So this is where, and I mentioned earlier, we're very goal focused, but how do you prioritize your goals, right? If you want to save for college or you want to save for retirement, but then you're like, hey, I have my money going to this, but what if something happens? And the thing I would say to that is a couple things. One is we think about something like there's an emergency in my life, right? And it's very common for people to say, well, break out the credit card, and then your credit card balances run up. I know it happens. And in this economy, I mean, everybody's getting pinched from all directions. It's at the gas station, it's at the grocery store, it's in your monthly bills that come to you electronically or you're getting in the mail. There is nothing right now that hasn't been touched by inflation. Nothing. So everybody's just getting hit by all directions. So, and it's so easy for people who are running short each month to say, I'll just put it on the credit card. And next thing you know, a little bit of a balance becomes a bigger balance and then it snowballs. And you say, how did I get here? So this philosophy of preparing for the unexpected, even in the beginning, if you have to say, instead of contributing as much as I would like to into my retirement, maybe I take some of that and set it to the side. I don't invest all of it, but I take some of it, but I take the rest and set it to the side. Build a rainy day fund. Really
Mm-hmm.
try to have enough cash there so that you don't have to lean on the credit cards and you can avoid that. But that keeps you from doing exactly. I know so many people that have done this. And again, it's just people experience this and they look back and they go, gosh, I wish it wouldn't have been that way, but it keeps them from crashing into their savings that they had planned for retirement. So that preparing for the unexpected becomes a very big part toward success in achieving goals. So, and that's something that a lot of people, they have to master it. It's difficult. It's not an easy thing. So, and life insurance goes along with that too. And if somebody says it doesn't, I got to tell you, I've seen firsthand where clients and even employees, Celena, where maybe somebody's life was taken too soon, and next thing you know, their family is left reeling, saying, "How do we survive without the income?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very real. I've had firsthand experience with that, and in my career very early on, and I can tell you is it has a very lasting impact on the family, and so life insurance becomes a very important role in making sure that the family is prepared in case. I mean, let's face it, we're not getting off this planet alive. There's no getting around it. It's gonna happen. So, and it seems like a very morbid thing to say, "Hey, I believe I'm going to die so prematurely, so much so that I'm going to put money toward it." But the fact of the matter is that your loved ones are depending upon you to provide for them, and if you can't, who will? So that's where you have to look at it and say that's where life insurance plays a very important role there. Um, anyway, so that's again planning for the unexpected. Any thoughts on any of that, Celena? I know I'm throwing a lot at you.
Oh, no, it's good because, I, of course, I'm just putting my little stuff on out there. I was
Mhm.
not prepared for college.
Oh
And
yeah,
so when you and I talked, I don't even know how long ago it's
mhm.
been,
Yeah,
I thought I was kind of okay, but I wasn't prepared for the unexpected. And
yeah.
even up till yesterday, we have car problems. Sean said the car stopped. First, it got towed. Then it stopped on him right after he got it out of tow, and
Yeah.
he said it wouldn't start.
Hmm.
And do I have anything set aside to say, okay, here you go, just get it fixed or what?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that for
Hmm.
me. And so I think that you hit it just completely the nail on the head when you were talking about how we live off of credit cards. And
Yeah.
that is what I really got used to, because you could buy now, pay for it later, and just hope nothing major happens.
Hmm.
But if I went back through my credit card bills, that's like how we got groceries, how we got
Hmm.
gas,
Yeah.
and it's all in like survival mode. Let me just survive
Hmm.
today,
Yeah.
not really having the guidance or even the mindset of what is my future going to look like? What if,
Hmm.
I put a little extra here today in order to help me for tomorrow, or to help me when
Yeah.
things pop up for
Hmm.
not just me, but for my kids. Because if it happens to them, it's like it just happened to me. I felt like I was sitting on the side of the road yesterday
Oh,
waiting
sure.
for
Hmm.
the record to come. So yeah, everything that you're saying, it's right. We don't realize that we're doing some things. We're not really paying attention, not cognizant of
Hmm.
it. And did I say that right? I think so.
You
We
did.
struggle sometimes with my
It sounds
words.
like it. Yeah. Sounds
Yeah,
like it to me.
yeah. So we're not thinking about it. That's basically what I was trying to say. And so if you think about things like, I know I talk about the pause. So if you just pause before you make that purchase,
Hmm.
pause before you hit buy now
Hmm.
on Amazon, just anything that you do in your life, if you think about what is the consequence for this, what is the benefit
Yeah.
behind this, and
Yeah.
even filling out my forms at work, like I need to change my W-4.
Hmm.
Yeah, I need to change my W-4 at work because it's not correct.
Hmm.
But that's another thing. We put it to the back burner because you don't see it. It's not right in front of your face. But look at it.
Hey, Ginge, what you doing, Ginger?
Oh gosh, that's funny. I looked down and saw her comment. What? Tom Piper Jr.
I know, right?
So yeah, so we need to just think about it, pause and stop,
Yeah.
and not spend everything that we have to Amazon. Go invest in Amazon. This is where you
Yeah.
spend your money at anyway.
Yeah.
Go find some way to invest in that, in Walmart, wherever we're spending our money.
Hmm.
Just stop spending so much for those tangible things right now.
Yeah. Well, remember, when you buy stock, you become a shareholder. So basically, when you shop at Walmart, now you're paying yourself.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
That's how it works. Something that I'd like to make sure that everybody keeps in mind is that I would definitely encourage people. So I see Winston's comment there, right? So in colleges, I'll just make a comment here. So Winston, you're right. Colleges make it a habit to target students. They do it for a very specific reason, because they know as soon as you get out, you're going to have a credit card bill, and you're going to have income. Theoretically, when you graduate college, you have income, right? And so yeah, and they got you hooked from the beginning, so they know it. So I would say that first off, hey, there's Joanne. Hey, Joanne.
All
So
your bells for our family
I know,
jumping on.
right? So actually, hang on a second, Joanne. I see your question. So um, I would say on the month to month part of this, right? When you and I talked about this, Celena, that's the one thing where I try not to intervene on how somebody spends their money from month to month. I'm not going to manage that for them, right? But I would encourage anyone to say is that um, I would definitely read Dave Ramsey and his Total Money Makeover. If you've never heard of Dave Ramsey, he does a talk show. This guy has lived a life of mistakes and has learned from them, so much so that he's written books on it. And he's considered a financial expert in the industry today. So if you want someone to really give you kind of a roadmap of how to manage your month to month and kind of live in a way that is not living in fear of, am I going to be able to make my bills every month, and is something going to surprise me each month? Definitely read Dave Ramsey, Total Money Makeover. I endorse it. I will say I believe in 90% of what he says. If you did it 100%, you'd be living in a van by the river, until you had 20% down on your first house. It's you know, it's
Ooh, Dave
he's
Ramsey is tough.
oh man, he is firm in his beliefs, and
Mhm.
I appreciate him for that. So Joanne asked the question: is there a formula to know how much you need to have to retire? And so the formula isn't exactly kind of direct; it's more a reverse formula. So it's a rule of thumb more than anything. So I'm just going to say be very careful with this because it's like saying a one size fits all, and that's just not how it is. So there's the 4% rule, and so the idea is that when you retire, that you do not want to draw down off of your total retirement assets any more than 4%. Okay, so let's pretend that just for round number's sake, you had $1 million, and you know that you don't want to draw down more than 4% a year. Well, that's $40,000 a year. So if you think about it and you say, well, gosh, I mean, my Social Security is $2,000 a month. That's what, $24,000 a year, right? So I can draw down another $40,000 a year. That gives me $64,000 a year divided by 12 months, whatever the math is there. So it's probably 50 some odd $100 a month. Is that enough to live on? And then you got to be mindful of there's a tax influence there. So, and then you got to be mindful of there's an inflation influence there, right? So, there's factors there, but the kind of the reverse math on it, Joanne, is the 4% rule. So, but you kind of have to back into it, and you have to look at your total need each month with Social Security and any other income you may have. Could be pensions, it could be annuities, whatever, right? I hope that helped, Joanne. Okay. And these are great questions. I appreciate it. Anybody else have any good questions? Because, man, I love these. I'll eat these up all day long. Yeah.
Ooh, hey, can you invest? Can you deposit in my account? How about that? Just throw me a little something, something over here. I
How
need
about
to take up a college fund. It doesn't even matter. Whoever wants to donate, come on, I'll accept. It's
yeah,
tough, Tom, to have
yeah,
two in college at the same time. Like,
yeah, yeah. Uh,
goodness.
Having children is a very expensive proposition. And I would say is that so many people, and it's certainly of my parents' generation, a lot of people saw this, but back then, our parents had kids, and then it was you made the finances work on the backside of having kids. And then more and more, what you see is that people are starting, like planning their family around, hey, I want to be at a certain age so that I can make sure I have a good enough income so that I can afford to have the kids. So our way of thinking of being financially prepared for children is just so drastically different than what it was with our parents. So, I
Not to
would
mention the
definitely,
dog. Then
not to
you throw a
mention,
fur baby in there, like he's sick. I mean, you got those vet bill and
yeah,
everything else, the food and the
yeah.
shots, and it's just like add another kid. You got a dog, you got a kid.
Celena, I'll tell you a personal experience. So we have Boston Terriers, and right now we have Rudy, but before it was Dolly, and this was just recently. So Dolly developed a rare blood disorder, and we ended up having to put her down. But this took about, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks maybe of a process. And this was, we didn't know what it was when it first started, and it's a lot of blood work and it's a lot of doctor's visits, and something that my wife Kelly and I that yeah that something that we experienced personally with these expenses. We were smart enough and fortunate enough and aware enough by having pets in the past. We'd heard about pet insurance, and we inquired about pet insurance. And so, I mean, it's something we did. And I got to tell you, it would have been thousands of dollars in vet bills. And it really kind of came down to a couple $100 out of our pocket at the time. So I would say, really it comes down to and kind of I see my wife chiming in here, Kelly, right? So two kids in college, right? And it is a sigh of relief. I'll make a point here, and that is that when people have kids in college, and if they have to divert, like, hey, I was putting so much money toward retirement, and they're like, but I can't afford it with kids in college, and they have to divert their money towards sending their kids to college. When the kids get out of school, if you're in a position to recoup quickly, man, you got to, flip the lever, move the money back over to your retirement plan, and just hammer down on savings, because that's like a pay raise, right? kids are out of college. Hopefully they're off parents' payroll. And then, right, you just kind of start throwing money at your retirement plan. So, but
And
so anyway,
I think like to live the life that you want to live, you
yeah,
have to do things that other people are not willing to do.
yeah,
And so like I said earlier, sometimes you got to pull back from that compulsive spending, shopping, anything, eating out, all
mhm,
those things
yeah,
take away from what we really want to do. Now, hey, if you want to eat and just eat, hey, I'm not knocking you for that, because that's
sure,
how I lived majority of my life. Like
yeah,
that was my stress reliever, was my go-to food. But
mhm,
now I'm like, I don't want to pay that for that.
yeah,
You just think differently whenever you know better. You're supposed to do better. At least take that pause and say, do I want to go home and prepare what? A sandwich, tuna,
yeah,
something like that, versus spend $20, because $20 over time,
yeah. It
it
adds up.
I've been paying for Zoom for 2.5 years, because when I started doing this, I started on Zoom. And for some reason in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm going to keep that because I never know. And this is how it started out. I'm just
Mm,
going to keep the Zoom because I don't ever know when I might have to bounce back and forth. I hadn't bounced back yet. And every time I see that Zoom taken out of my check, I'm like, I meant to cancel that last month. And here I am, 2.5 years into still having Zoom, still paying
mhm,
$17, I think. It was
yeah,
right at $20 for it every month. But that on top of this
mhm,
software, I
yeah,
pay for that on top of this, on top of that. And just the subscriptions alone
mhm,
be going toward the insurance
yeah,
or the investing or whatever.
yeah.
That's just my little tidbit. That's another mistake of mine. Like you
Well,
said, Ramsey, he learned from all those
oh
mistakes.
yeah, oh
I'm
yeah.
just over here just writing a whole book.
Hey, get it published, right? That'll be a retirement plan too. Um, I would say, Celena, what you're saying is, and what I hear from it is it's the importance of being deliberate, right? And being very intentional about the things that we do in our lives. And so I see Debbie's comment there. So the thing I would say too is, like Kelly and I did this probably about 3 months ago, right? We printed off all of our monthly expenses and we looked at everything and we went through it. And it's like, okay, there's the one offs. Like we went to eat dinner here, right? And like I had to, I don't know, get like work done on my truck, whatever, right? But it's like, hey, we're paying for this LinkedIn subscription, and I don't even use that anymore. So okay, I'm going to call and cancel that. And we went through line item by line item. We changed our cell phone provider, saved good money there. So and I don't know what the number was that we came up with, but we took a few $100s a month out of our budget just by going through and being very deliberate to say, we're going to get rid of this, we don't need it. We're going to get rid of this, or we're going to switch from this to this, and it's going to save us money. So I would encourage anybody, if you make it an annual ritual, maybe do it at the first of the year, do it on your birthday. I don't know, pick a date, but just make it a point to go through and make sure that these subscriptions, they make it so easy. And TV subscriptions, good Lord, Discovery Plus and Hulu and all these things, right? We have them in our house, but like we went through and it's like, all right, what are we going to keep and what are we going to get rid of, and hard choices. But and there's some that it's like, okay, we're going to cancel this one until this show comes back on, and then we'll get it long enough. We're going to wait till the whole show comes out, like all 10 episodes or whatever. And then by the time the 10th episode comes out, we're going to get it long enough just for 1 month to binge watch it, and then we'll cancel our subscription again, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think it's frugal. Sometimes Kelly says I'm being cheap. I don't know. I say frugal.
Yes, indeed. Kelly over there living the good life. She better not be talking about my Tom Pike.
Hey, she takes good care of me. I have nothing to
I
complain
know,
about.
I know you don't either. Y'all spoil each other.
Well, we
I need
try.
to just come for dinner. She's forever preparing something and posting it, make me hungry.
I'm telling you. I
Oh,
always
Ginger said
said,
you cheap.
oh,
I'm trying to take up for her.
thanks, Ginger. Haven't missed a step, I see. Oh,
Oh,
there's Kelly. Come on now. Y'all don't go piling in on me.
oh gosh. Mm-mm-mm.
Oh,
But no, that is really good advice about going through line by line by line, because I realized that Oh, I can't think of it. I think it was Microsoft.
Mhm.
Adobe. Adobe was trying to take $120 something. I'm like, for what?
Yeah.
Adobe Pro? I don't even use it. But sometimes you click in too much and you click on something, you being agreed to it because just to try to use the service for one thing and forget to go back and cancel it, and there they done add it and try to deduct. I just shut down my change my card. It's like
You got to be a bird dog on it because I'm gonna tell you. I mean, they're the subscription. What's Ginger talking about?
I don't know.
All right. So for like subscriptions, you got to watch out because once they get your credit card number, man, they're not going to stop until you scream uncle, and you've got to be deliberate about that. So I would encourage anybody, if this is something that you have subscriptions or whatever, just make it a ritual, go through every so often and just bird dog it. Do not let them get any more of your money than they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do want to point to something here, Celena, and it's it's kind of rule number 9 and 10, and we've been talking about it, but it's rule number 9: focus on what you can control. We've been talking about it this whole past probably 10-15 minutes, right? So can't control the market, but you can control how you react to the market. You can control your rainy day fund. You can control how you spend money. I was telling Celena earlier that I've had clients that have retired on very little amount of money in their retirement because they controlled their expenses so well. Their financial need in retirement is so low that they don't have to have a lot of money. So, is that a dream retirement for a lot of people? Not necessarily, but I don't know. I mean, I know I saw the comment earlier. Does everybody want to work until they die? Either. I don't think that's an option most people want to pursue. So, if you can't control the performance of the market and you have limited means, well, then the one thing you can't control is certainly your expenses along the way, right? Definitely be deliberate about it. So and then lastly, I'd say is rule number 10 is review your strategy regularly. It's one of the things I do with my clients. We have at least once a year a retirement discussion, if not more, but it's really how are you tracking and what's that looking like? I use the analogy of landing a plane. If you don't track toward the airport and you're ready to retire, you're going to have to make some pretty drastic and abrupt maneuvers toward the end. And that's a pretty rough ride for all the passengers. So for your loved ones, your spouse. So I would encourage everyone listening, if you have your plan put into place and you're working your plan, check it and review it regularly and make sure you're tracking well.
Mm-mm-mm. Well, we sure do appreciate that. I'm over here putting ways to reach out. I think I got it. I think that's your number. If not,
That's it. That's my office. Yep.
okay.
Yep. I'm licensed in Mississippi and Louisiana. So if anybody needs a hand, I just really love helping people. So if you have any questions or anything you're not sure about, there's no cost for a great conversation.
Oh, that's so sweet. Ginger says great advice
Well,
after she called you cheap.
I appreciate the moment of sincerity. She's redeeming herself, is what it is.
Yes, indeed. So just once we finish, I'm gonna upload this to Apple and Spotify so they're not able to see it run across the screen. So I'm just gonna say the number out. It is 919-833-3390 and at edwardjones.com. That's Tom Piper Jr. And so that's for the traditional podcast that can't see all of this great activity going on over here. Whew, that was a lot of information for sure, but it was some great information needed, very much needed. I wish that we could absorb this at a young age, but nevertheless, wherever you are, there's a plan for you. Like literally, there's a plan for you. Except maybe 1 year out, you might not have a chance. According to Tom, you 1 year out, you
Your
just
yeah,
the elevator door has closed.
your plan might include a trip to Gulfport, maybe the Bow. I don't know.
Mm, that's funny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So like for me, I don't even know where I would start at 50. So I'm 50, two kids in college. So mine
Mhm.
wouldn't be a college fund.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to start a grandchildren fund.
Yeah.
Leave it up to the children. You take
Hmm.
care of your own kids.
Yeah.
But I want to travel, so I need to figure out what that looks like.
Hmm.
Um, and like you were
Yeah.
saying, that's another thing. Don't sell anything. If you have property and you have homes, hold on to that. We freak out and we're like, "Oh, I'm about to get out of it," because a lot of homes were selling for almost double the price,
Yeah.
and people were selling their homes and moving into something smaller, an apartment
Mhm.
or something of that nature, trying to take this as an advantage to pay off all their bills. I know I had one friend that did that, and so she did that, and she moved into a new house. So I guess it
Mhm.
worked. It worked for her, but every strategy does not work for everybody. So it's not
No.
that one size fit all, like you said. That's not it.
Yep.
But just don't panic. That's the most important thing, because the market always bounce back.
Yep.
Always, it
That,
comes back.
that's sound advice.
Mm-hmm. Don't panic. Just
That's
don't
it.
even look at the numbers.
Hey, it's funny when the market pulls back. I ask the client, I'm like, so have you been bold enough to look at your account lately? When we have pullbacks like this, and they laugh and they're like, I'm not worried about it. It's going to come back. They know.
I'm glad you said that. Okay, so this is the other thing, because you were talking about people that are willing to take risk, and
Hmm.
then the other ones that may not feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So just recently, I met this young lady, and when she spends something, she's like, it's just money. I had two people, matter of fact, they're like, it's just money. I believe in the law of abundance, and
Mm-hmm.
that God is going to give it back to me. So even
Mm-hmm.
if they make a mistake, not saying to make a habit of it, that's not what I'm saying. But if something happens to happen,
Mm-hmm.
you just relax and say, you know what? God got me.
Yeah.
And that was their take. So when Sean's car broke down, I tried my best to remember what they said and be like, girl, don't worry about that car. It's just money. You'll
Yeah.
get more.
Yeah.
Whew. So
We,
your relationship with
mm-hmm.
money
Mm-hmm.
needs to change, because a lot of people came from a poverty mindset.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they're holding on so tight to $5. They
Mm-hmm.
don't open their hands up and say, you know what, I'm going to invest this five,
Mm-hmm.
to realize you can get way more if you just open your hand and stop trying to clench that 1 5.
Yeah.
Be cheap.
You know,
That's
you
five.
made a great point, Celine, about where people come from. But if you really trace it back, I mean, in life, whether we know it or not, who's our first financial advisor? Our parents.
Parents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of things that, all of us are good at. I mean, and as parents ourselves, it's kind of like there's things that we're good at for our children, but it doesn't mean we can be good at all things. So I would say is that for anybody that had parents that maybe they were good at a lot of things, but maybe I don't know, like finances wasn't their strong suit. That's okay. I mean, like if your parents weren't a doctor, what did your parents do when you were sick? They took you to a doctor, right? You seek
Mm-hmm.
professional advice in areas that maybe they can't do, and that's okay. That's why we surround ourselves in a community with professionals. But
That's
you know,
right.
anybody, it kind of going back to earlier in the conversation, if you have a 401k at work, you need to be contributing to it. Especially, I mean, if there's a match, you need to be contributing to it. There's so many reasons why. And of course, it doesn't matter when you start or where you are in your life. If they offer a 401k and you get a match, save it and start investing your money. It's never too late to get started. Well, I say that. We've established maybe there's a time where it's too late, but still, the earlier the better. But save as much as you can, invest wisely, and if I can be of service to anybody who hears this podcast, it would certainly be my pleasure.
Well, we do appreciate that. I know that the one piece that you told me earlier, well, one of the pieces, because we've talked a couple times lately,
Yeah.
was about, it was when you get an increase. So
Yeah.
when you get a
Oh
raise,
yeah.
go ahead and take that as an opportunity to
Yeah.
bump up your contributions into
Yeah.
your 401k, because you didn't have it already.
Yeah.
So when you do get it, pay yourself, take a little bit of your raise, enjoy it.
Yeah.
But then you said what, by 1% at least?
Yeah. Yeah. So most companies, and with inflation, most companies are being aggressive with their increases right now just to keep their workforce, as close to inflation as they can. And so, but let's just say you got 3% increase. So, and most companies are very consistent on the time of year when increases happen. So if it happens on January 1, you can actually set it up in your 401k website through your employer. You can go in and set it up to where they will auto increase by 1% on a set date each year. So it ratchets up 1%. And if you do it consistent or at the same time as your annual increase, and you're getting 3%, well, you're paying future Celena 1%, and you're paying today Celena 2%. So you're not getting the whole thing in the moment. But
Mm-hmm.
and so most employers have this match where it's like you give 5%, they give 4. Well, and I tell people this all the time. If you want to be prepared for retirement, you need to be saving at least 10%. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean all of your money. It could be the match too, right? But at least 10%. If you want a better retirement, go for 15, okay? And more is always better. But if you think about it and you say, gosh, I can't afford, I can't afford to contribute. If I give 5 and they give 4, that's 9. 6 is a little rich right now. So maybe I just do 5 in the moment. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. Start there. But next year, do the auto adjust where it goes up by 1%. Well, now you're given 6 and they're given 4. You're at 10%. Next year, it goes and it adjusts by 1%. Now you're at 11. After 5 years, you're up to 15%. You didn't even feel it, right?
Didn't
That's the
even.
whole trick behind it, right? So any way that you can kind of manipulate your money so that you're saving more and it doesn't cause any pain in your life, then great.
And when you and at that same time of year
Mhm.
that you're reviewing that, make sure those subscriptions go through it.
That's right.
Those
Yeah.
credit cards, because
Yeah.
you never know. I mean, so much fraud is going on now. Somebody else will be having their bills paid through your credit card. You be like, I don't know why I can't get this credit card bill paid down, and you're not paying attention. So it is just like intentional.
Yeah.
Intentionally pay attention
Yeah.
to your finances, to what you're investing, to what you're spending money on, and you
Mhm.
just be surprised at how much you'll save. I was surprised at what my 401k was,
Yeah.
just being at Valspar for those few years, you know.
Yeah. Well,
What
Selena.
I'm taking out, taking a loan, taking it back, taking it down, taking it
Yeah.
up, I was a little inconsistent, but
Mhm.
even that blew my mind
Yeah.
that between my contribution and their match, I mean,
Yeah. It adds up quick.
this plan.
Again, rule of 72 in time, right? Your time horizon has a lot to do with it. One thing I'll point to is that, and I did this early in my career. I had taken a couple 401k loans very early in my career. And I got to tell you, after doing it, I think I did it twice. And it was like within the first 5 years of my career. And I was like, I'm never going to do this again because it takes money out of the market. So you're not investing at that point. Yes, you're borrowing. And the thing that we hear is that, well, you're paying yourself interest. Well, that's true, but you're not growing it in the market. I'm paying it. The market's not giving it to me. So, and again, it's something. And if you leave or if your job goes away, now you have to pay all that back, or you just took a withdrawal, whether you knew it or not, because that loan then becomes a withdrawal if you don't pay it back. And then you take a tax hit that year because that's treated as income and Mississippi state income tax, right? So, I mean, you're getting federal tax at 20%, state income tax,
The
at what?
withdrawal penalty.
I mean, and the withdrawal penalty, I mean, just in your mind, you have to be prepared to say, I'm giving up 35% of my money and it's because you took it
Ooh,
early. It's not worth it. I'm telling you, it's not worth it.
it
Treat
wasn't.
treat your 401ks and your IRAs as sacred. Don't touch them. They are like sacred as marriage. Just don't touch it, right? Just be protective of it.
Wow, that's true. And you see, I didn't forget that penalty because I just got hit with this, so
I'm
it's
telling
fresh
you,
on my mind, and it definitely does not feel like it's not worth it.
you
You
do
can feel
not.
it, and you're so upset with yourself for
Yeah.
not having a better plan.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know even the guy that came to talk to us, he said, go borrow from a family member
Yeah.
before you touch this TSP. Don't take it out. Don't
Yeah.
take a loan because then, like you said, it's not being invested at that time. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well. Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Where was my help, Lord?
But it's things we learn in life, right? And that's why I feel so compelled to help people, because I just don't want to see people make mistakes.
Yeah, I want to live a good life like you and Kelly, because y'all forever moving and
Uh,
selling and buying and doing.
I'm
I'm like,
telling you, Celena, we're done moving. That's it.
yeah, you say that now.
Well, I've said it plenty of times. This time we mean it. We're done. This is it. Yeah, we live near our son. Happy here. Love it here. And I have clients all over the country. I can serve them from anywhere. And I love what I get to do, and we love where we live. So that's it.
And listen, I have to say before we close out, I never would have thought that we would be like this in this setting,
Oh
you
yeah.
being the financial advisor, and I'm over here being the host of Conversations with Celena.
I mean, time, right? Who would have thunk it, right?
Who would have thunk it? But for y'all that don't know, you see the Valspar family in there. That's where I met Tom and Ginger and
Yeah.
Joanne and Debbie. We were all at Valspar, the
Yep.
paint company, and Tom hired me. I thank him all the time because I was a single parent trying
Yeah.
to take care of my kids. So as long as he's been knowing me, that's what I've been over here trying to do.
Yeah.
And thank God that we survived, we made it, and I appreciate him. I appreciate that experience, and I
Mm.
have lifetime friends because of that opportunity. So
Well,
he's right. He loves to help people.
I give it to God. I'm not smart enough to know God's will. He kind of makes me do things and I don't understand it. But I I try to submit, and even times I find that I don't always understand it, but that's okay. And but I give that to God. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Same here,
Yes,
Ginger. Same
I
here.
know.
Yeah,
Yes, we love and miss our family. We
yeah.
have to do a reunion.
Hey, there's an idea.
I know we can do it virtually too. Just all come on and have a good time.
That would be a motley crew.
Oh Lord, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Tom, for saying yes and coming and giving us our roadmap and offering up your services and letting us know that we can do it. We can do it, and it's not too late. She's yes, a reunion. It's
I see
not
it.
too late, and to be aggressive and to be intentional. There's some words, there's key words that you need to
Mm.
hold on to, not to panic. Don't go snatch it out when the market does what it's going to do, because it's going to come back. So we just
Yes.
want to reiterate those things at the very end, is that start now right where you are, so that you are thinking about your future
Mhm.
and not just in the moment. So
Yeah.
you think in the moment, it's not going to be good. So
Yeah.
pause before you do any
Mhm.
type of compulsive spending, because you think about thank you.
Thanks,
You just
Ginger.
your future. And that's
Yeah.
all I have to say about that.
It was my pleasure to be on here tonight, Celena. I feel privileged and honored to be a part of this. So thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. We'll have to do this again. Maybe we can
absolutely.
make it a annual thing to come back, because babies are being born every day and people are going to need the same advice over and over and over, because it takes us a
Yeah.
while. We're hard headed, and
Yeah.
we may not have gotten it at 18. Some are going to take heed that's
Mhm.
18. Some are going to be at 20. Some are going to be at 25, so different ages. Some gonna be like me, 50, and just saying, Tom, I need some help.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it, in my opinion, podcasts and things of that nature, that's the world that we live in now.
Mhm.
Someone can see it tomorrow, next year, 5 years from now, and still continue to reach out. And that's what
Mhm.
I love about it now, because you said it yourself. You're in North Carolina, but you can serve
Oh yeah.
your clients all over because of things like this,
Yep.
Zoom and StreamYard. So there's no boundaries just because there's state line.
Yep.
There's no
Absolutely.
boundaries.
Yep.
So that's the part that I love about it. And so again, thank you again for joining. I
Thank
sure
you,
do
Celena.
appreciate it. And we will sign up to do this again next year.
Amen. Let's do it.
Amen. All right, y'all have a great day. Go share a smile and spread some sunshine. All right. I love you.